thousands of tourists who visit Visby and Gotland each year. The University of Uppsala, Campus Gotland, offers a wonderful place for studying in the former malt house from the 1870s. This is also the location of the town library with a beautiful view of Armadalen Park. But let's begin at the beginning of Visby's history. Traces of the town's earliest history can be found beneath the paving stones in the present-day main square. They are the remains of a Stone Age settlement which is about 5,000 years old. At that time, people were nomads, and they used this location as a seasonal home. They survived on fishing and seal hunting. This was long before the town of Visby was ever thought of. The town of Visby started out as a Viking Age trading harbour, a cluster of wooden huts situated beside the inner shore of a deep-sea bay. This grew into a beautiful medieval town of stone in the 13th century. Some of the medieval buildings with Corby step gables still rise majestically along the street Strandgatan, just here behind the wall. They were mainly used by merchant families for storage. The medieval trading ships moored alongside long jetties here in the former harbour, which was in use until the 14th century. Today it is a park called Armadalen, Elmdale. The up-and-coming Prime Minister Olof Palme chose this place for a political speech in 1968. This set the ball rolling for what has now become a major event, the Almedal Week. 1 week each summer, all of Sweden's top politicians gather to make speeches, mingle, and lead seminars here in Visby. The town's earliest watchtower was built as early as in the mid-12th century on the headland beside the prominent medieval harbour it was built to protect. Any hostile ships trying to enter the harbour would be attacked from the battlement at the very top of the tower. In the medieval period, the tower was known as the Lamb Tower, since the lamb was the Gotlanders' heraldic symbol. The solitary building was later incorporated into the town wall, built 100 years later. Today it is called the Gunpowder Tower, since it was once used as a magazine. It has also served as a prison. Many a poor soul was locked in the tower's cold, damp dungeon when the weather was at its coldest. Beautiful and very popular seafront runs alongside the sea wall. This is a perfect spot to enjoy some fantastic sunsets. Don't miss the chance to stop and embrace in a small round-headed archway known as Lover's Gate. It's said to bring good luck. Make a point of visiting Visby's beautiful botanical gardens here behind the wall. They were established as early as in 1855 and are renowned for their beautiful rose gardens and exotic plants, which thrive in the mild autumns beside the sea. In this part of the town, you can also marvel at the timber houses from the 18th and 19th centuries. The town wall girdling Visby is 3.5 kilometers long, and building started in the mid-13th century. The wall was probably not built as defense against enemy attack. It gave Visby the authority to impose tolls and taxation. This kept the Gotlandic trader farmers at arm's length from the lucrative trading enterprise. This conflict led to a civil war between the Hanseatic town of Visby and the local islanders in the war and monopolised trade. More height was added to the wall after the Civil War, as well as many defence towers to protect the town from the islanders. The landward section of the wall is thus more heavily fortified than the sea wall. There are a number of smaller towers along the sea wall. One of them has been linked to a legend relating that the daughter of a goldsmith betrayed the town and opened up the gates to the Danish invasion army in 1361. Her punishment was to be incarcerated in the Maiden Tower. Today, we know that this was just a legend, and that the name derives from a bygone Swedish liquid measure called a maiden. When we turn the corner, leaving the seawall, we can see Visby Hospital on our left-hand side. Quite large and modern for the 60,000 people living on Gotland. The north face of the wall has tumbled down at several points. This is due to the soft, marshy ground that the wall was built on. The collapsed wall nearest the sea is known as the Lubeck Bridge, after a battle which took place here between Visby and Lubeck in the 1520s. Legend has it that the Lubeckians forced their entrance into Visby through the Viking Age and put a large part of the town to the torch. Some of Visby's medieval churches were left in ruins by these attacks. The gate tower nearest the sea in the north face is known as the Landing Beach Gate and was one of the first gatehouses to be built. More than 15 large churches were built in intramural Visby in the medieval period. The ruins of most of them can still be seen today. Visby was a trading town and home to people of many nationalities. For this reason, German churches, Gotlandic churches, and a Russian church were built here in the town. The Franciscan Brethren had their church and the Dominicans theirs. To the left you can see the medieval hospital church St. George's, which was placed just outside the town wall. A special gate called St. George's Gate are open to visitors in the summer. Make a point of visiting one or two while you're here. best preserved sections of the medieval town wall. It also has the best fortifications, since this was an opportune spot for enemy attack. This is where you find most of the defense towers. Ground-based towers alternate with hanging towers, straddled over the crown of the wall like a horse saddle. These top-heavy towers put an enormous strain on the construction, and many parts of the wall tumbled down as a result. Much of the building material was quarried just outside the wall, leaving deep furrows which are still visible to this day. These dry moats made it even more difficult for the enemy to attack the town. Town centre is here, just outside the East Gate. This modern shopping centre will satisfy all needs. The shopping centre continues through the East Gate, then down the hill, curving to the left, and all along Island of Gotland to the South Gate. Today, Visby is a town with about 20,000 inhabitants. Only 3,000 live within the walls. Just 200 years or so ago, there was very little built-up area outside the town wall. Just wide open spaces with a few farms and buildings. A Cistercian convent called Mont Soleil was situated here just outside the town. Cast your mind back in time. It is the 27th of July, 1361. The area outside the wall is wasteland. The farmers from the countryside have gathered along the exterior wall face. They are standing shoulder to shoulder all the way from the East Gate to the South Gate. They have gathered at dawn to confront the Danish invasion army led by King Valdemar after dark. His objective is the subjugation of the island and the prosperous merchant town. A fierce battle has already been fought further south, but now the Danish forces have reached Visby. They line up opposite the islanders just over 150 meters from the wall. The atmosphere is tense. The peasant farmers have come to Visby fully expecting to find allies in the town guards, determined to join the town dwellers on the battlements and defend their island. The burghers of Visby, however, have suddenly changed their minds and decided to negotiate with King Valdemar instead. They hastily lock and bar the town gates. The battle begins with the two forces firing arrows at each other until the Danes finally advance and engage in a violent battle, with devastating results for the local farmers, untrained and left in the lurch. By evening, 1,800 islanders lie dead outside the wall. They are buried in enormous mass graves at Montsoleil Abbey. The Danish invasion of 1361 is one of the most renowned events in the history of Gotland. You can still see some of the armour and skeletal remains from the mass graves at Gotland Museum in Visby. We now pass through the South Gateway. The old wooden gates in the north, east and south gateways were still closed and firmly locked at dusk right up into the 1870s. Anyone wishing to enter or leave the town at night time had to crawl through a sort of cat flap which had been sawn out at the bottom of the wooden door. The town wall was built in the 13th century because of a conflict which divided the town and country. Today, it is a united symbol for all of Gotland. Every year, numerous visitors come to Gotland to see the beautiful wall. Visby is now on UNESCO's World Heritage List, a heritage site which hopefully will be protected and preserved for many generations to come. Through what was once the bailey of the impregnable Visby Castle. The castle was built adjoining the south town wall by the ruling Danish castellans in the 15th century. Today, just a few remnants of the great castle remain. When the Danes besieged Swedish-occupied Gotland in the 1670s, they blew the castle to pieces, and all that remain today are just a few remnants of wall. But in its heyday, in the 15th and 16th centuries, the castle was ruled by castellans who engaged in piracy and privateering, with the castle as their headquarters. The pirate-infested Baltic Sea posed a constant threat to all merchant ships. Down on the waterfront is Visby single-cell prison, or seven-masted schooner as it is popularly known. In the mid-19th century, King Oscar of Sweden proposed an act whereby imprisonment would be a means of reform and rehabilitation. Prisoners were encouraged to renounce their criminal life and leave prison as a better person. They were given the opportunity to study, and everyone had the right to a single cell. This led to the building of the single-cell prison in Visby. It is called the seven-masted schooner since it had 7 tall chimneys. The name also made it easier for a prisoner to explain his long absence on his release. Instead of saying that he had been doing time, he could say that he had signed on for service on board a 7-masted schooner. As we approach our final destination, we kindly ask all passengers to prepare to alight. We trust you have found your trip with us interesting and hope that you enjoy the rest of your stay on Gotland.